Welcome back. Today we're going to go on a little time travel together. I want to take you back into your own life, into your past, thus the time travel, and we're going to discover your origin story. So imagine the story of Superman on planet Krypton or whatever. Like that was part of his origin story. You want to look back on this hero's life and discover what were the conditions that helped create this Superman. And so what we're going to discover today is what were the conditions and circumstances and events that shaped your life. So what is your origin story? That's the focus of today's show.
Cowboy.
Welcome to a daily dose of greatness quest with your host, Trevor Crane, my daddy. He is going to help you take your life and business to the next level.
Here I come to save the day.
Trevor Crane here, 11-time #1 best-selling author and the founder of Epic Author Publishing, coming to you live every day so you can plug in every day to build your ideal business so you can live your ideal life.
If my daddy can do it, then anybody can do it because he's a weirdo.
You're supposed to make me sound cool.
Okay, this is exciting because yesterday's podcast was about thinking about and focusing on what lies you are telling yourself currently. And I shared with you my insight and revelation is that the lies that I am currently telling myself has to do with more of the limitations and limiters and excuses that I have been telling myself. These are all lies and bullshit, my own limiters. Nobody came and gave these to me and said, you can't, I can't, or whatever. There's no policeman. There's no authority that said that I can't do any of these things that I want at the next level. It's just my own stories and limitations about it. Now, the cool thing is that another piece of homework that a friend and mentor gave me was to look back at the events in my life to discover, like when I was a little kid, what happened? Like what were some of the defining moments and pivotal changes in my life? Like what happened? Was there what happened in my life that are like the memories that I have that shifted everything for me? And a friend of mine shared with me a picture of himself hitting a home run when he was like a little kid. He was like 12 years old and he hit a home run. And he got a lot of love for that home run. Like the bases were loaded. It was the good guys versus the bad guys. He was up against his nemesis and his rival team, and he had to show up and he had a chance at bat, and he just so happened to swing that bat, hit a home run, run around the bases. They won the game. And the love and adulation that came from the crack of that bat became something that shifted the rest of his life. And he started to constantly seek to become this athlete that would excel at another level. And it got me thinking about the times in my life and the things that transformed, the things that happened that transformed me. And so I started thinking back about my own moments. And I was thinking, and here's my challenge for you. As I go through mine, I'm going to share with you some of mine. I want you to listen and I want you to consider your own origin story. What are the memories you have? The pivotal things that shifted your focus, your beliefs, and how you decided to face the world and go and what created the man or the woman that you are today. And so as I think back on those memories I have from early childhood, there were pivotal times in my life. This is what sequence came up for me. And it came up in chronological order for me, for the most part. And I'll share them with you. So you may have heard me talk about this when I was either 4 or 5 years old. My dad came to me one day and said, it's one of my first memories, and said that he was going to go on a little vacation. And it was up to me to take care of the family. And so it must have been a lot of energy and pressure around this question at the time. For some reason, I remember it. And I took it very seriously. Like I had 2 little sisters. They were like 2, right? And I'm the 4. And I remember that I thought it was my responsibility to take care of my mom and my sisters. and I was the man of the house now, and I took it pretty seriously. And so I went out and started a business. I had heard my dad ran his own business. He was a horseshoer, and so it was like your freedom is, and how you can take care of your family, and the smartest thing you can do is start a business. And so I started a business selling rocks, and I went into my backyard, and I figured I love rocks. Who's not going to love rocks? So I got rocks from my yard, and I took them to the neighbor's yard, and I created something that day that very few entrepreneurs ever do, or a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with actually doing, is that I created a profit. I didn't create a business card. I didn't create a logo. I just picked up rocks from my yard and took them to the neighbor's yard. And I was thinking about, like, this was a pivotal moment in my life. Now, there wasn't a lot of drama or trauma, but there was this sense of responsibility that my dad gave me that I needed to show up and take care of. And I was just thinking about it. Like, I've always, as a little kid, I remember that I always had this sense of responsibility. And I always had a sense of playfulness and wanting to have a lot of fun, but I always wanted to do what was right and what would make my mom and dad happy. Now, I don't know what your memories are when you were a little kid, but these are some of the first ones that I remember. Like, I remember not wanting to be a little shit. I remember wanting to thinking about the decisions I would make and how I'd spend my time based on whether or not my mommy and my daddy would like it. And if it was the right thing to do, and that I had a responsibility to take care of the people in my life. And so I'm curious about how now I'm raising my kids, and I've got a 6-month-old and an 11-year-old daughter, a 6-month-old boy and an 11-year-old daughter, what events they are going to remember that are going to help them transform and create their superhero in the future. Okay, so that's one of my memories. And then I'm going to some of the other transitional times in my life. So I was playing football when I was a teenager. I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old, maybe max. And we were playing this game against our rivals in football. And the first string running back, I was like a sophomore in high school. My first string running back was hurt and came out of the game. Second string running back was hurt and came out of the game. Third string running back was hurt and came out of the game. And I was either third or fourth string. I don't remember. But I was the only guy on the team that was left that was still walking, that knew the plays. And it was raining that day, and our quarterback couldn't throw the ball because of the challenges we had with the weather. And it was like I was put in the game, and I was excited because, I got to play, but I was scared to death because I probably weighed about 125 pounds dripping wet. I was fast and I was sneaky. I was always a very coachable kid, but I was in a game and everybody was bigger than me, and I was getting my ass kicked. Like, we were struggling in this game. And I remember one time I got hit so hard in the leg. I got tackled, and this first guy tackled me, and he hit me in the leg, just the thigh, so hard. I lost my breath. Not because he hit me in the stomach, but because he hit me in the leg, and I couldn't breathe, and I sat there gasping. And then I wasn't alone. He piled on top of me, and so did everybody else. So not only could I not breathe, I had a whole bunch of dudes, sweaty, stinky, rain, wet-soaked dudes on top of me, and I couldn't breathe. And I gave up. I wanted to give up, but I couldn't give up. I couldn't give up because I had to take care of my team. And I remember that it was a defining moment underneath this dog pile. I felt like everybody on the football field was on top of me. It was probably only a couple of guys. But it felt like there were 30 people on top of me, and they had to tear them off. Like, there was this huge pile. And while I was underneath this pile, I knew that I had a defining moment. That I could either quit and let down my entire team because there was nobody else to replace me, or I could keep going. And I had no idea how I could keep going. I was in so much physical pain, and I had given up in my mind. I didn't think that I could possibly continue, but I had to find a way. And so I decided to dig deep. I believed, and I remember while I was laying underneath that pile, that if I chose to lie down and die and to quit, that I'd be quitting for the rest of my life. And so I truly believe that was a transitional moment for me. And that I decided to be somebody who wouldn't quit. And there are many times in my life after that where I would start something and not quit. Whether it was like I wanted to shoot 10 baskets in a row. When I was playing basketball at my own house, there was a little basketball hoop, and I was like, I made like 8 free throws in a row, and I was like, sweet, I'm going to keep going until I do 10. Next thing I know, I was up all night because I kept messing up. I'd get to like 9 or 7 or whatever, and then I'd miss one and have to start over. And I just didn't want to quit. And it was insane. My family, my mom and my dad or whoever was around at the time, my stepdad, yelling at me, it's 3:00 in the morning. Stop fucking shooting baskets and go to sleep. And I was like, no, I got to do 10 in a row. So like, and it's just an interesting concept that something happened for me. And I think it's actually even an extension of the conversation about responsibility. See, I knew if it had only been about me, I would have given up. I didn't want to walk. I didn't want to get up after that dog pile. But I made it about something that was more than me, and then that gave me the power and the strength to not quit. And so I could go on and tell you more of my stories, and I think they're really interesting. And I just did a 30-some minute walk and talk with myself, where all I do is talk to myself and coach myself in the morning. So like I could talk to you about this for a long time. But here's my challenge for you instead. I want you to think about the definitive moments in your life, in your upbringing, that helped define who you are. Like, what were the things that shifted for you? There were times in my life when there was also, my dad jumped on me and slapped me around, and he wanted to kill me at one stage, or so I thought. And what also showed up for me weren't all the, oh, look at me, Trevor, he overcame adversity. It was like I was scared shitless, and bad things happened. Where my dad took me to the woodpile one time when I was probably 10, 12 years old. I hadn't gotten a spanking in a long time, but I was messing around, and he took a 2x6 that was probably about 4 feet long, maybe 5 feet long, and swung it like it was a Louisville Slugger. Made me drop my pants and hit me with this 2x6 in the ass so hard. Again, it knocked the wind out of me. I fell to my knees. I couldn't breathe. He hit me so hard I was convinced like I couldn't walk again. Thought it broke my back. I couldn't even walk. I had to crawl. He made me, I don't know if he just left me there. And I was crying, gasping, not being able to breathe. This is one of the things that shaped my life. And me like trying to pull my pants back up, feeling embarrassed, feeling like my dad just completely betrayed me. This was a definitive moment in my life on how I was going to deal with that situation. And so I'm not talking about just the happy shit. I'm sure that you went through some challenging times. I don't know what they were for you. One time, again, going back to like what helped shape me in definitive moments in my life, my dad was mad at me one time. And he was yelling at me in the middle of the night for some things I probably messed up, let's be honest. But I did my best to make it better. I'm not going to get into the whole drama of the story. I'm not going to get into the whole drama of the story, but he was on one side he was outside the house, and my parents had already split up. I guess I'm going to get into some of the story just to bring you into the moment. But he was outside the house yelling at me, saying, "Get out here, you motherfucker. I come out here. I told you need to do this and do that." It was like middle of the night. It was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. My dad had just come home, and he had seen that the horses that we had at the time didn't have water. Totally my bad, I guess. But he had not told me to water them, from my recollection. And he had said that he had. And so we got up and I watered them. But he wanted their water buckets full even more than I had filled them up in the middle of the night. And we were arguing, and he's yelling at me on one side of a sliding glass door, and I'm on the inside of the house because I had just done what he asked me to do, but now he's yelling at me about it. And so I just locked the sliding glass door right in front of his face. I had to be 13, 14 years old at this stage. The kind of a lot of things happened around that time frame, apparently. And he lost his mind. And so he's on one side of the door. And I could see him. And oh my God, it was dark out. And he stepped back and he said, "I'm going to fucking kill you." And I thought I was in fear of my life. Like he took a couple steps back, like he was going to be a bull and frickin' run through that sliding glass door and come get me. Because he had demanded that I come out and do whatever more he wanted me to do. And I was like, "No, you're wrong. Like, I didn't do this. Like, it wasn't my responsibility. Nobody told me. And I already got up and I did everything you wanted me to do. All the horses have water." Like, no. And we're arguing. I'm sure I was being a little jerk. But, oh God, I thought he was going to kill me. And so what happened is when I locked that door, he was so furious. Snot came out of his nose, man, and he was going to come through. And I was like, "Uh-oh, this is it. He's going to kill me this time." And so he started running for the other side of the house because he knew I hadn't locked all the doors in the house. And so it looked like he was going to beat me to the front door. And I was scared about the front door because I wasn't sure that I could lock it well. So I took a step or two to race him to the front of the house where I was going to lock it. And he was beaten. And instead, I turned away and ran the other direction. And I ran like he was on my ass. I picked up a pair of sandals that were sitting there. And I was barefoot. And I ran out the back door of the house in exactly the opposite direction. And I didn't run to the end of the street. I didn't run behind a wall. I ran for about 5 minutes straight, as fast as I could possibly run. And I ran cross country through the desert. And I carried the shoes in my hand. And I ran through cactuses and I ran through over bushes. And I ran as fast as I could, as though he was like the devil himself on my ass. I ran so fast, I thought for sure I could hear him screaming and slamming doors. I thought he was breathing down my neck. I was so scared, I thought literally he was going to kill me. And then I remembered I don't know, however far you can get. I was several hundred yards. I was a half mile or something away from the house by the time I stopped. And I finally like barely looked over my shoulder and like I slowed down and hid behind a rock way far from the house. And I was so scared I just cried my eyes out. Now, a couple other things happened after that and whatnot, but here's my reason for telling this visceral story. I want to challenge you to go back into your life, into your origin story, and discover what were the pivotal moments in your life that helped create what you believe and how you decided to go ahead and tackle the world. Because these things shifted me. I'm sure that you've got your own memories and origin story that shifted you. I didn't know I was going to go into that whole part of the story, but I just wanted to share with you something that wasn't just sunshine and rainbows, but also the stuff that was challenging that ended up pushing me to hopefully become better and do better. And I actually am grateful for those challenges in my life. I don't know about you, but I'm grateful for the things that happened to me, even the shitty things, because it helped create who I am, and I'm pretty proud of who I am today. And someone asked me recently on a podcast about their son. She said, I have a 17-year-old son, and he's kind of spoiled. You know, he gets everything he's ever wanted. And she was just curious. She liked me on our podcast, and we were talking about what we've done with our kids that were positive, and we talked about how my daughter's 11 and she's got 10 best-selling books. And she said, "Do you have any insight here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I haven't had a 17-year-old son before." And we were talking about it, like, how do you give them the gift of, instead of just being like this spoiled little brat? It's not exactly how she described him, but this is how, like, our challenge as parents. And I struggled for how I could support her with some answers. I gave her some stuff, but since then I came up with this one word, and it's pressure. I actually believe that pressure is when we truly show up, and that potentially our job as parents is to put pressure on our kids. Now, I think they already have a significant amount of pressure. We have a different world we lived in than when you and I broke up. There's social media pressure, there's peer pressure, there's pressure to perform, there's pressure to this, pressure to do that. But I don't think pressure is a bad thing. I think it needs to be given with also unconditional love, because it doesn't matter. I don't care whether my daughter does well as long as she does her best. But I enjoy the times that I know she is going to go through pressure. Is it challenging for me? For holy baloney. I don't want her to go through pain. But I also know that it's only through pain and through struggle and through some of that pressure that she puts on herself, or that the world will put on her, is going to help create that diamond. And I'm grateful for the moments in my life that I just described. As I look back on my origin story, it seems that the things that shaped me were those things that put me under a significant amount of pressure, and I still survived. So I don't think pressure is something we have to escape from. So my challenge for you today is to ask the question about your origin story, and to go ahead and discover what yours are. And if you haven't done so already, write them down in your journal, capture them. And then the cool thing is, if you understand the things that have shaped you up until this moment, you can pick maybe some pivotal moments and things that you can do in your life from here moving forward that can also transform who you are, so you can reach and become your next level superhero. What pressure can you put on yourself so that the next level of your life, this next iteration of your life, this next becoming of who you are as a leader, who you are as a father or a mother, who you are as a lover, who you are as someone who contributes and gives, that you can go ahead and create the you that you want. And I know that for myself, I'm recognizing that I need pressure. And so fortunately, I'm in a situation where the external world is not putting some of that pressure on me at this moment. My life conditions are pretty cool. But that also is a comfortable place, that it is time for me to challenge my own ass and push myself to get up at 4 a.m. and to become more and push myself and put an internal pressure on myself so that I can grow and become that diamond, that next level superhero that's going to help the people that I want to help and serve. So hopefully this has been valuable for you. It's a combination of, I think it triggers from yesterday's episode where I talked about lies, because all the things I learned about myself when I discovered my origin story is that I believed that I could do anything and that I could overcome any adversity. And yet the lie that I was telling myself up until this moment is that I can't have this next level of stuff because I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Those are all lies. Those are adult lies that have been showing up and sabotaging the next level of whatever it is that I want to grow and give and contribute. So maybe you'll find a tie-in for yours as well, and maybe you won't. I'm not really sure, but I'd love to hear about it. So if you can give me some feedback on how yesterday's episode or today's episode ended up serving you, that would be phenomenal. If you haven't done so already, we would love a share on iTunes. Review on iTunes. We could definitely use that. And I look forward to helping you in any way, shape, or form that I can. So if you're getting some value from these shows, please share it with someone else. And if you'd like to reach out to me on social media or get some help with your messaging, your book, your business, or whatnot, you just let me know. And I'd love to support you. All right. Make today magnificent.
To get even more awesomeness, which means all my best stuff, download my app by texting Trevor to 36260. It will show up right on your cell phone. Just text message the word Trevor to 36260. Talk to you soon.